The housing allowance deposit hit my account 3 days early, but I wasn't supposed to receive one at all. I'm Senior Airman Gavin Ellison, 28 years old, currently deployed to Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. Been here 6 months running logistics for cargo operations. Single. No dependents. Living in base quarters like every other unaccompanied airman. The notification pinged my phone during morning briefing. Basic housing allowance. $2,847 deposited. I stared at the screen. BH only goes to married personnel or those with dependents living off base. Neither applied to me. I pulled up my banking app. The deposit was real. Posted at 0347 hours. Reference number BAHMD 7749 ELLISONG. My first thought was system error. Finance screws up payroll monthly. But the reference number included Maryland state code. I'd never lived off base in Maryland. Never even applied for housing allowance. During lunch break, I called the finance office. Sergeant Martinez pulled my records. Shows here you're receiving BAH for off-base housing in Annapolis, she said. Lease agreement on file dated 4 months ago. That's impossible. I live on base. System shows different. You're listed as residing at 847 Harborview Drive, Apartment 3B, monthly rent $2,800. I'd never heard of Harborview Drive. Never signed a lease in Annapolis. Never lived anywhere but base housing since arriving in Maryland. Can you email me the lease documents? Can't do that over unsecured channels. You'll need to visit in person with proper ID. I hung up and opened my credit monitoring app. 3 new inquiries in the past 4 months. All from the same property management company, Chesapeake Residential Group. Each inquiry showed my social security number and current military address. Someone had been busy using my information. The finance office closed at 1,600 hours. I had 3 hours to figure out who was collecting housing money in my name. 3 hours to understand how someone accessed my military records and forged lease documents. My phone buzzed with another notification. This time from my credit union. New address change request submitted. Forwarding address, 847 Harborview Drive, Annapolis, Maryland. The same address from the fake lease. Someone wasn't just stealing my housing allowance. They were redirecting my mail and changing my financial records. This wasn't random fraud. This was systematic identity theft by someone who knew exactly how military housing benefits worked. I screenshot everything and started making a list. The timing was too precise. The knowledge too specific. Whoever did this understood military pay schedules, housing regulations, and my personal information. This felt personal. The finance office smelled like burnt coffee and bureaucracy. Sergeant Martinez spread the documents across her desk like at a crime. The lease agreement looked legitimate. My signature appeared authentic. Even the military ID photocopy matched my current card. But I'd never signed any of it. When did this paperwork arrive? I asked. 4 months ago. Submitted through proper channels with all required documentation. Martinez flipped through the pages. Housing allowance started immediately. No red flags in the system. I studied the signature. The handwriting matched mine perfectly. Too perfectly. Someone had practiced copying my name until they could forge it flawlessly. Who submitted the paperwork? Says here was mailed in. No record of in-person submission. She pointed to a stamp in the corner. Postmarked from Annapolis. The address on the lease was real. I'd already checked Google Maps during the drive over. Harborview Drive existed. Apartment 3B existed. But I'd never been there. I need copies of everything. Can't release original documents. But I can print duplicates for your records. While Martinez worked the printer, I called my half-brother Derek. We'd grown up in different households after our father remarried, but stayed close through high school. He'd helped me move to Maryland when I got stationed here. Knew my social security number from helping with paperwork. Had access to my apartment when I deployed. Derek answered on the 3rd ring. Gavin, how's the treating you? Fine. Quick question. Remember when you helped me move last year? Of course. Why? Did you keep any of my documents? Social security card, military ID copies, anything like that? Long pause. Maybe some stuff in a box. Why would you? Need those? Someone's been using my information. Fraudulent housing claims. That's crazy. Who would do something like that? His voice sounded different, tighter, like he was choosing words carefully. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Can you check if you still have any of my paperwork? Sure, I'll look around. Probably threw most of it away, though. I thanked him and hung up. Something felt off about the conversation. Derek had always been meticulous about keeping documents organized. He wouldn't just throw away important papers. Martinez handed me the copies. You'll need to file a fraud report with military police. This could affect your security clearance. Back in my truck, I called my friend Marcus Chin from tech support. We'd gone through basic training together before he transferred to cybersecurity. Marcus, I need a favor. Can you run a background check on someone? Depends what you're looking for. Financial records, recent address changes, credit applications. That's borderline illegal, Gavin. Someone stole my identity. I need to know how deep this goes. Marcus sighed. Give me a name. Derek Ellison. My half-brother. Family makes it complicated, but I'll see what I can find through legitimate channels. I drove to Harborview Drive. The apartment complex was upscale, new construction with granite countertops and stainless appliances. Rent would easily run $2,800 monthly, exactly what the fake lease claimed. The leasing office was busy with afternoon traffic. I approached the desk clerk, a young woman with bright red hair. I'm looking for information about apartment 3B, I said. Are you interested in renting? That unit just became available. Actually, I think there might be a mistake. My name was on a lease for that apartment, but I never signed one. Her expression shifted. What's your name? Gavin Ellison. She typed rapidly on her computer. According to our records, Gavin Ellison has been renting 3B for 4 months. Rent paid on time every month. Can you describe the person who signed the lease? I wasn't working here 4 months ago, but I can check the application. More typing. Says here the applicant was military, stationed at Joint Base Andrews. Provided all required documentation, including proof of income. Did he provide references? Standard military references, plus one personal reference. She squinted at the screen. Derek Ellison, listed as brother and emergency contact. My stomach dropped. Derek had vouched for someone using my identity. Either he was involved, or someone had used his name too. Is there security footage from when the lease was signed? We only keep footage for 90 days. That would be long gone. I thanked her and left. In the parking lot, I called Marcus back. Find anything? Your brother's been busy. 3 new credit cards in the past 6 months, all with significant balances, plus a car loan for a BMW. How much total debt? Close to $80,000. And here's the interesting part. His employment history shows he's been working as a military contractor. Claims to have security clearance. Derek worked construction. Had never been in the military. Never had security clearance. There's more, Marcus continued. Address history shows he moved to a new apartment in Annapolis 4 months ago. Guess the address. 847 Harborview Drive. Apartment 3B. Your brother's been living in the apartment he rented using your identity. The pieces clicked together. Derek had used my military credentials to qualify for an expensive apartment he couldn't afford on his construction salary. Then used my housing allowance to pay the rent. The BMW, the credit cards, the fake contractor job, all funded by stealing my benefits. Marcus, I need you to document everything. Screenshots, records, whatever you can legally access. Already on it. This is federal fraud, Gavin. Military benefits theft carries serious penalties. I sat in my truck, staring at the apartment building. Derek was living in luxury while I bunked in overseas barracks, using my name, my service record, my sacrifice to fund his lifestyle. My phone rang. Derek's number. Hey, I found some of your old paperwork, he said. Looks like someone might have gotten hold of it. Really? What kind of paperwork? Social Security card copy. Some military documents. They were in a box I thought I'd thrown away. He was lying, trying to establish plausible deniability now that I was asking. Questions. Where did you find them? Storage unit. Must have forgotten they were there. Derek, I need to ask you something directly. Are you living at 847 Harborview Drive? Silence stretched between us. I could hear traffic in the background. Maybe the sound of him walking. Why would you ask that? Because someone's been using my identity to rent an apartment there. Someone who knows my personal information and has access to my documents. Gavin, I would never. The lease has your name as a reference. The apartment management confirmed it. More silence. Then Derek's voice changed. Became colder. You can't prove anything. I don't need to prove it. This speaks for itself. You've been deployed for months. Living for free on base overseas. I needed a place to live after my landlord kicked me out. The housing allowance was just sitting there, unused. There it was. The confession I'd been dreading. That money's for my service. My sacrifice. Your sacrifice? You volunteered for to get away from everything here. I'm the one dealing with real life. Real life doesn't include stealing federal benefits. I was going to pay it back with what money? You're $80,000 in debt using credit cards you qualified for with my stolen identity. Derek hung up. I sat in the parking lot as the sun set over Annapolis. My half-brother had systematically stolen my identity, forged my signature, and used my military service to fund a lifestyle he couldn't afford. The betrayal cut deeper than the financial loss. He'd helped me move to Maryland, shared family dinners, acted like he cared about my head, all while planning to rob me. I called Agent Jackson the next morning. The Regional Housing Fraud Task Force had been tracking similar cases across military installations. Derek's scheme fit their pattern perfectly. We need recorded, Jackson explained during our video call. Phone confessions aren't enough for federal prosecution. Can you arrange another meeting? He won't meet in person. Too paranoid now. Then we set up a controlled call. You'll wear recording equipment when you confront him face to face. Jackson's plan was simple. I'd return to Maryland on emergency leave. Tell Derek I wanted to resolve everything quietly before involving authorities. Get him talking about specifics while wearing a wire. The emergency leave request went through in 48 hours. My commanding officer knew the basics. Identity theft by a family member. Potential federal charges. He approved the leave without questions. I flew back to BWI Airport on a Tuesday morning. Agent Jackson met me at the rental car counter. She was younger than I'd expected. Maybe 35. Sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Your brother's been busy since your call, she said, handing me a manila folder. 3 more credit card applications. All approved. He's accelerating the timeline. The folder contained bank statements I'd never seen, credit reports showing accounts I'd never opened. Derek had been thorough. Every application used my military service as qualification criteria. He's smart, Jackson continued. Use your schedule to time applications when you wouldn't be monitoring credit alerts. Very calculated. We drove to a coffee shop in downtown Annapolis. Jackson's team had already set up surveillance equipment. The wire was smaller than I'd expected, barely visible under my uniform shirt. Remember, we need him to admit specific amounts and time frames, Jackson said, adjusting the microphone. Don't lead him. Let him volunteer information. I texted Derek from the parking lot, told him I was back in Maryland, wanted to meet before taking legal action. He agreed to meet at the Harborview apartment complex where he'd been living under my name. The drive took 20 minutes. Derek's car was already there when I arrived. A Honda Civic with Maryland plates. I'd helped him buy that car 2 years ago when his credit was too damaged to qualify a loan. He was waiting by the mailboxes. Same Derek I'd grown up with. Brown hair, medium build, nervous energy. But something had changed in his expression. Harder now. More desperate. You're really going to destroy our family over this, he said without greeting. You destroyed it when you stole my identity. I borrowed your information. There's a difference. $80,000 isn't borrowing. It's theft. Derek looked around the parking lot, checking for surveillance. He was paranoid, but not paranoid enough. Let's walk, he said. We headed toward the apartment building. Derek used a key to enter the lobby. My key. Made with my forged signature on the lease agreement. How long have you been planning this? I asked. It wasn't planned. Opportunity presented itself when you deployed. Bullshit. You had copies of my documents ready. You knew my social security number, my military ID details, my schedule. Derek pressed the elevator button. We rode to the 3rd floor in silence. Apartment 3B had my name on the lease. Derek's furniture inside. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. My identity funding his lifestyle while I slept in military barracks overseas. Nice place, I said, looking around. What's the monthly rent? $2,800. Plus utilities? Another $300. So $3,100 monthly. Times 6 months. That's $18,600 just for housing. Derek sat on a leather couch I'd never seen before. Expensive. Probably financed with my stolen credit. I needed somewhere to live after Sarah kicked me out. Sarah kicked you out because you couldn't pay rent. Because you'd maxed out your credit cards and defaulted on your car loan. My financial situation was temporary. So you decided to make it my problem. Derek's phone buzzed. He glanced at it nervously. Probably another creditor calling about missed payments. How many credit cards did you open in my name? I asked. Just a few. How many is a few? 6. Maybe 7. What were the credit limits? It varied. 10,000. 15,000. The military qualification helped with approval amounts. I walked to the kitchen. Derek followed. The refrigerator was full of expensive food. Organic vegetables. Premium beer. Steaks that cost more than my daily allowance. You've been living well on my dime. I was going to pay everything back when I got my business started. What business? Consulting work. I had clients lined up. You've been saying that for 3 years. Still waiting for those clients to materialize. Derek opened the refrigerator, pulled out a beer, offered me one. I declined. You don't understand the pressure I've been under, he said. Mom's medical bills, the divorce, everything falling apart at once. So you decided to steal federal benefits. I used available resources to solve a temporary problem. Available resources? That's my housing allowance. Earned through military service, protected by federal law. Derek drank his beer, stared out the kitchen window at the harbor view he was paying for with my money. How did you get my signature on the lease? I asked. I practiced. Took time to get it right. You forged federal documents. I adapted existing signatures to new paperwork. That's forgery, a felony. Derek finished his beer, opened another. His hands were shaking slightly. What happens now? He asked. You're going to pay everything back, close all the accounts, move out of this apartment. And if I can't? Then federal prosecutors will handle it. Derek laughed, a bitter sound. You'd really send your own brother to prison? You really stole $80,000 from your deployed brother? We stared at each other across the kitchen. 6 months of lies and betrayal hanging between us. I need time to figure this out, Derek said. Time's up. The Housing Fraud Task Force is already investigating. Derek's face went pale. You called the FBI? I called the appropriate authorities. This is federal crime, Derek. Identity theft. Wire fraud. Forgery of military documents. I'm your family. Family doesn't steal federal benefits while their brother serves overseas. Derek set down his beer, walked to the living room. I followed. He was pacing now, running calculations in his head. How much time do I have? Agent Jackson wants to meet with you tomorrow morning. Agent Jackson? Regional Housing Fraud Task Force. She's been tracking cases like yours across multiple military installations. Derek stopped pacing, sat heavily on his expensive couch. This is really happening. You made it happen when you forged my signature 6 months ago. My phone buzzed. Text message from Jackson. Everything was being recorded clearly. Time to wrap up the conversation. I'm staying at the base tonight, I told Derek. Agent Jackson will contact you tomorrow with next steps. Gavin, please. We can work this out between us. We could have worked it out if you'd asked for help instead of stealing my identity. I headed for the door. Derek followed. What do I tell Mom? Tell her the truth, that you committed federal crimes and got caught. Derek grabbed my arm as I reached for the door handle. Please don't do this. I looked at his hand on my uniform sleeve. 6 months ago, I trusted this person with my life. Shared family secrets. Helped him through financial problems. Now he was begging me not to report his crimes. You did this to yourself, I said, pulling free. Every forged signature, every fraudulent application, every month you lived in this apartment, using my stolen benefits. I left Derek standing in the doorway of the apartment he'd rented with my identity. The elevator doors closed on his desperate expression. Agent Jackson was waiting in the parking lot. She'd heard everything through the wire. "Perfect," she said, removing the recording equipment. "We have enough for federal charges." "What happens next?" "We arrest him tomorrow morning. Federal prosecutors will handle the case from there." I drove back to Joint Base Andrews as the sun set over the Chesapeake Bay. Tomorrow, my half-brother would be in federal custody. The betrayal would finally have consequences. But tonight, I just felt empty. 8 months later, I stood in the same parking lot where Agent Jackson had removed the recording equipment. Different season. Different perspective. Derek received 18 months in federal prison. Restitution of $47,000. 5 years probation after release. The judge called it a profound violation of military family trust during wartime. Mom visited him twice. Stopped after the second visit. She never explained why. The apartment complex settled out of court. New management. Stricter verification procedures. They hired me as a consultant to review their military housing verification protocols. I partner with housing officials to audit proxy agreements quarterly. Mine ended 3 months ago. Transferred to a desk position at the Pentagon. Fraud prevention specialist. Turns out my experience made me valuable in ways I never expected. The nightmare stopped around month 5, replaced by something quieter. Not peace exactly. More like acceptance. Derek wrote letters from prison. I never opened them. Agent Jackson said that was normal. Victims often need complete separation to heal properly. My credit score recovered. The fraudulent accounts were removed. My housing benefits were restored. The financial damage was reversible. The family damage wasn't. Last week, I helped another service member whose brother had stolen his VA disability payments. Same pattern, same betrayal, same shocked expression when they came undeniable. "How do you get past it?" he asked. "You don't get past it, you get through it." I gave him Agent Jackson's direct number, told him to document everything. Trust the system. Let justice handle the rest. Some betrayals teach you who people really are. Others teach you who you really are. I learned both. My apartment overlooks the Potomac River. Small place. Quiet neighbors. No family photos on the walls. Just military commendations and a framed letter from the fraud prevention unit thanking me for my consultation work. Derek gets released in 10 months. Mom mentioned it during our last phone call. Asked if I planned to visit him. I told her no. Some bridges burn completely. Others just need time to rebuild. This one burned to ash. But I sleep well now. Work meaningful cases. Help other victims navigate the system that helped me. The betrayal changed everything. Destroyed my faith in family. Shattered my trust in people I'd known my entire life. It also showed me what I was capable of surviving. Tonight, I'll review 3 new housing fraud cases. Tomorrow, I'll testify in federal court for another victim. Next week, I'll train base commanders on identity theft prevention. The work continues. The healing continues. Derek's crimes created a victim. But they also created an advocate. I never thanked him for that. Never will. Some lessons cost too much to acknowledge their value. The river flows past my window. Steady current. Constant motion. Moving without looking back. It was finally over, and the silence felt earned.